Since we interacted, and I know there's a lot going on, I've been getting questions of people wanting to ask certain questions, so we just agreed that we're opening up the process today so we can talk about some of the things that are happening. So
yes, okay, so you're done?
Yeah.
Please introduce yourself.
I'm EJ Nathan Billboard from the Youth on Display. How are you?
I'm fine.
Two issues. Where do you stand with the establishment of the War Crime Court? And there's the argument about the change of currency. How do you view it?
The issue of the War Crimes Court is actually a national issue that Liberians must decide. His Excellency the President has submitted a letter to the National Legislature to begin discussions on same. I think the legislature that represents the people of Liberia in the first instance will begin to look at it, and out of the process we'll see. I'm just an individual. I'm a civil servant working for the people. I believe the will of the people is what we must do. On the issue of the change of currency, also a letter came from the executive about the need to change the currency because of the perception that we have monies in the system that no one is quite sure of the number, quantity, or value. And so they had asked the Banking and Currency Committee headed by Grand Leader Senator to look into the issue, him and his committee members. I believe the letter came on the Senate floor, and we asked the committee to do a report. A report was done. There were more questions being asked that the report didn't quite adjust, so that the chairperson of the committee retrieved that report for the additional consultations of how much the value will be, how we'll find the money. Those questions are being done by the committee. I'm hoping that before we close, that particular issue also will be looked at.
Okay, all right, thank you so much, Madam Vice President. My name is Musa Kenneth, and I'm for Truth FM. I have two questions quickly. The first one is, yesterday the President addressed the United Nations General Assembly. He talked about this creeping threat that people in and outside of the country who are trying to undemocratically take power. I want to know whether this is the position of the whether the government has evidence to prove if that's the case. Do we expect that people will be charged for treason? Because that's the first question. The second question, I listened to radio stations this morning, and I've been hearing people who are saying that accusing the Vice President of being supportive of the Council of Patriots, and she's working with them to see how, if the President is removed, then she can come to power as President of the Republic of Liberia. What's your opinion to the two issues?
On the President's statement, I think you have to wait till he returns. I don't think I'm clothed with any authority to speak to that issue. On the issue of the fact that people are alleging that the Vice President is involved in these activities, I made a conscious choice to be a part of the Coalition for Democratic Change. As his Vice President, I was elected, and I know better. There's no way that I, Jua Howard Taylor, has ever been or will ever be a part of trying to destabilize this government. And I think those who are spreading those rumors are wicked and diabolical people.
Okay, yeah, back there?
Yes.
No, please.
Yes, Madam President, Aaron Kuba, a report for Fabric Radio. Two issues. My first issue has to do with quite recently, one of the senators, President Senator Dillon, made a disclosure of the senators monthly, taking something around $15,000. And while you were senator, you were on record as one of those persons who said the typical pay of senators is low. I mean, it's something that is very small, and there's a need for more increments into that. And there have been concerns in the public about the exorbitant, salaries of senators. What do you make of his disclosure? Because there are concerns in the public that salaries of senators should be reduced. Do you stay half of the view that it should be rather increased than the view that it should be reduced? And my second concern is the issue about the proposal from the president. One of them has to do with the similar thing that the affirmative action bill that you supported before, with the granting of additional 13 seats for females. That proposal was argued, and I saw on the floor there were a lot of apprehension from senators about the granting of such 15 seats for females as well. So what do you make about that proposition, and also my first concern as well?
On the first concern about the comments made by Senator Darius Dillon, I can tell you that as senator, I never made any $15,000. My salary was $10,000. I said then that if you consider what responsibilities that lawmakers have to provide for their people, if you are someone who is a people person, then that salary was not enough. And it was said in context, because I was at a meeting in Philadelphia and people were concerned. And I said, look at my office. A senator or representative makes a particular sum of money. The House of Representatives and the Senate make the same money. One senator is responsible, maybe in Bond County, I had 13 administrative districts, and one representative has one district. Yet the same amount of money is being made, and the same amount of gasoline, I think, is being given. And I said, a senator that leaves Monrovia and goes to Grand Cru with $500 or 500 gallons of fuel, by the time you go to Grand Cru and come out at one trip, right? I said, if you look at the differences in the differences in the distance and the differences in the development. Now, if you come to Monserrato and you're a senator here, your work is not as difficult, because Monrovia is, so-called an urban city. There's a lot more here than you find in Grand Cru or in Sino. I hope you agree with me with this. So if you're looking at those issues, you know that the responsibility of one senator from Grand Cru and the responsibility of one senator from Grand Cape Mount are totally different, because the further you go away from the capital city, the more difficult it is. And what is the normal thing that happens here? And I worked in the Senate for more than 12 years. People will come to you, their children are not in school. People will come to you, they don't have wells, they don't have water. The schools maybe need painting. If there's a storm, the storm is blown off the roof of a building. And like I said, this was in context. I hope those who write the story will write it in context, because sometimes some people have a way of skewing things. That's why I'm taking time to explain. And this was said more than 3 years ago. I'm just explaining that situation, because I think Senator Darius Dillon is the one you need to ask about, the context of what he said. I didn't hear it, I just read it in the newspaper. But my comments at that point was, if you take into consideration all of the difficulties our people face, when you are their representative coming from a real deprived community way away from the capital city, what is it you're expected to do? That's why, as senator, I remember Senator Blamo Nelson, now ambassador to Japan, and some others of us got together and said, if you wait for the national cake, all of the funding coming to the government, and you wait for it to be divided, maybe people in Grand Cru might not get anything. When Senator Nelson was senator of Grand Cru, there was no road to Grand Cru. To visit Grand Cru, he had to take a kino from Monrovia out of West Point and take that kino to go to Barclayville before he would get to his people. When he was going, he had to carry, things that you can't even imagine. So it was in that context that I spoke. However, I can say to you that I never made $15,000, and again, this is a new dimension, this is a new government. Our government, under the ambit of Ambassador George Manenwia, has said salaries across the board, whether you're in the executive branch or you are in the legislature or whether you're in the judiciary, are too high. That the needs of our people now have to be taken care of. And so there is a program ongoing for the harmonization of pay. And let's look at the executive. The fact is, a minister in this government can sit behind a closed door, never interacts with the citizenry at all. You know, he makes his money whatever he makes, takes it home to his children. He's not harassed. And we think it's harassment, but our people need help. Whereas this building is considered a what? People's building. Anybody off the street can walk in. If you talk to some of those who work in my office as senator, you know, I would get visitors from Grand Cru and from Sino and from Lofa. I wasn't their representative. But as a senator of that government during Madam Salif's tenure, if someone came to my office to ask me for help, if I could, I went out of my way to help because I knew how difficult things were. Whenever I went to visit somewhere, even if it was Bon County, I had to carry salt, I had to carry lapa, I had to carry different things. If there was a hospital, I had to buy drugs for that hospital because I knew that when I went to the place and I went to a small clinic, first thing you would find out that even aspirin, they wouldn't have it because the hospitals were far away in some places and the supplies just didn't reach there. So it was expected that when you visited there as a senator, and you are a senator for the entire area, that you had to carry these things. It was in this context that I spoke. That because we have to do all of this, as opposed to people working in the executive that receive their money, you know, do what they want to do with it. They're not under pressure like the legislators are to do all of the extra things. And because our people are disadvantaged and because they are poor, you know, there's no way you can go visit someone and say, oh, I don't care what's happening there. It was in that context that I spoke, that I believe that there were some people in the executive that made far much more without having the commitment, because they sit in moreover in their offices. Some of them are heads of agencies that should be decentralized around the country. They don't even go to visit those places. They send the assistant ministers to go and visit. So they never really see, you know, the context of how our people live. I'm happy that during the time of Madam Salif, what she did was to really take people out. Every year there was a 26 in some county, went all the way to Grand Cru. She said she wanted government to see what was happening in those areas. So it was in that context that I spoke. The second question, which is at my heart. For the past, I think, 7 years, we've been struggling to get on board affirmative action for women. And this process began a long while ago. Today, as we are discussing it, there are only 2 females in the Senate. There were strong women, Alomiza Innes, Victoria Lynch, Geraldine Doe Sharif, you know, so we're able to really push. And in 2015, I believe, we were able to convince the members of the Liberian Senate that an affirmative action for women was important. So our bill passed, the Liberian Senate went to the House of Representatives. Unfortunately for us, and I say unfortunately, because former Speaker Alexander Tyler was a he-for-she champion in all aspects of the word, not just by talking, but by doing. There were no issues that the women had that would talk to him that he didn't find a way to resolve, from the Senate or from the House or even women that came from outside. So he was a really true he-for-she champion. But by the time the document left the Senate to go to the House of Representatives, the leadership had changed, and in the end, former Speaker Nukwe said, we'll take a decision that this action will go for referendum. And the referendum documents came, people across the country were consulted, and the women, which make up 50% of our population, said this is what we would like to see. We need more women in the governance space. Across the 3 branches, not just in the legislature, but I always say that women in the legislature are important because this is where decisions are taken. If you're looking for money for girls' education, they're allocated here. If you are looking for money for maternal mortality, and let me tell you that the rates of women dying today is much higher than we had 3 years ago. Women are dying from simple cases. We now have a ratio of 1,000 women to 100,000, and I think that's very, very, very high. So the numbers are going up. If you look in the national budget, who's going to advocate for more money for actually changing that perception? If you talk about issues of education for girls, people are building the wells. If you check most of the schools, you will find out that they don't have water. You have to walk maybe in a community doing lunch to find water to drink. Girls now have to be, boys are more stronger, but girls have to now be caught up with this. You go to schools, there might not be decent bathrooms. A little girl who has a period and goes to school, if something happens and she needs to change, where does she go? There's an issue now of serious drug abuse in our schools, in our elementary schools, and there are a lot of things happening, and we're playing politics. So where is it in the budget that says we should now put money to ensure that the DEA gets stronger, that the laws for drugs being brought into our country, whether it's tramadol or cocaine, are stronger? So if they catch you bringing drugs, you are sent to jail without a bond? Who's talking about those issues? Because in the end, those are the women's issues, right? As a mother, I send my child to an elementary school. I don't expect that another child will come and give them tramadol. Women now have to work many hours. There are many female heads of households across our country. And if we all said our children will not go to school, they will not eat. So by the time children go to school, you work. By the time you come in the evening, you don't even know what your children are doing. Hello, mommy. Bye, mommy. Mommy, I'm going to school. Mommy, I came back. Maybe on Sunday, when you getting ready for church, you may get a chance to speak to your children. But other than that, women are working almost 6 days a week in order to provide better opportunities for their children. Who's in the legislature, as we discuss this budget, that will talk about the need for providing money to female-owned businesses? There are some of them that have been in existence for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years. They are struggling. Who provides the extra environment so that women can now, easily get some loans to strengthen their businesses, to improve it, to put in place different branches? Those are the issues we're talking about. The world is talking about sustainable development goals. What are those sustainable development goals? How does it affect women? If a woman is empowered, and the empowerment can be at different levels now. Those who are caught up for politicians are few. Some people just won't run their business and make their small money and take care of their children. Some people want to go into agriculture. Where do they get the land? Where do they get fertilizer? So who's talking about those issues? But the sustainable development goals circle what? One person. Let's be real. It is the mother in the home. She makes sure that children's school fees are paid. Very rarely you will see a father going to pay school fees. Maybe except he has a child that maybe the wife is gone off, or if something happens. But the case of men taking care of children are not that many. Most times the children stay with their mothers. So it's the mother now that's concerned about school. The mother is concerned about lunch. We have taxes on juice. So the woman who needs to give her child 1 box of juice cannot even afford it. Taxes have been increased on the plastic bear water. It went from $5 now, I think, to $10. So maybe a mother who has to think about 20 days, to provide that 1 plastic bear of water for a child cannot even no longer afford it. So she said, just go to school with it one, when you come out, we'll talk the other one. Children are staying in school for hours, they can't find water to drink. It's a mother that's concerned about that. Who's concerned about the high rate of school fees? So if a woman was in the market trying to get her children to school, what will happen now is she got to stay longer hours, stay in the market late, hoping that somebody who came from work late will come and buy your produce. So there are difficulties. But the reason why the legislature is considered the people's house is that these are the issues we should be concerned about. And I know as a senator, I work very hard on some of these issues. In the end, when a poor woman comes to your office and says, "Oh, Senator, I just want $25. Oh, I need to get my child to the hospital." You got to give it. You got to say you'll find it from somewhere. Because she's not coming, she's not exploiting you. That she actually has an emergency. But who's here now to talk about how we can ensure that, our mothers, the president said something during the campaign, that will work to provide insurance so that pregnant mothers can go to the hospital and deliver their babies there. It's a policy statement. We have not even effected that policy statement to make it active. So many mothers don't go to the hospital until it's time to deliver. You could be in crisis, and that's why we are having high mortality rate. By the time a mother does not go to the hospital for 9 months and she's pregnant, they have not, monitor her through the process. They don't know what the status of the baby is. Before you look, we're having women go to deliver and they just die there. Nobody knows what's happening to them. There's a high rate of HIV and AIDS. And the doctors around the world are saying, if you are a mother and you are pregnant, take the HIV and AIDS test, because then they know that you can't have a normal birth. That they will do C-section so that the child has a higher possibility of not getting HIV and AIDS. How much money do we have in the budget? So when you look at the SDGs, and you find out that if a woman is empowered, all those things, clean water, proper environment, all those things take place. Because the mother makes sure that her children are better off. But where are the voices here in the national legislature where the decisions are being taken? Why are we giving money to public facilities, private facilities, when our public facilities are suffering? We give money to some of the private schools. I know in America and other places, when private facilities get money, is to decrease the payment rate so that people who are living in that community that are at low income level can also access those services. So if you're giving money to those schools, where's the policy that say, okay, we'll give you $5, but the $5 to ensure that there's a cafeteria in your school, so that during lunch the children can sit in a safe environment and they have water. Those are the things you give subsidies for, to create better environment.
Okay, next question.
But people will not be able to take part in certain positions. For example, there's a new debate around the world that countries want their citizens to be 100% committed to the ideals and the visions of their countries. Someone that has dual citizenship should probably not be president. Because if you are president of a country, where does your loyalty lie? You have 2, some people got 3, some people got 4 citizenships. If all of those countries sit on this table today, and you are to decide on one or the other, whose position will you take? There are security implications in what we are talking about. Someone that becomes and I don't want to call any names, because anything I say gets taken out of context. The up and down ministry, you got a ministry for up and down activities, and you are looking for a minister for that ministry. And this particular ministry has the responsibility to ensure that people are not just walking on the street. Okay, children, because at one point Madam Salif issued an executive order that children who are seen on the street during school time will be carried to the police station, not arrested, but to find out where their parents were and why they were not in school. Because there were many out of school children, and we needed to get a feel for where they were. So in the morning when children go to school, you see small children selling small things. So the ministry is responsible now to ensure that all the other school children are sent to school. If you have dual citizenship and there's an issue concerning that country that you have, and you have an assignment here, where will you fit? Will you stay home and solve the other school children thing, or you got to go to America to go file your taxes, to pay for your taxes in America? Because there's certain times, you got to go and do all of that if you have property. So there are some things that will give you a double mind, that you might not be able to fully do the assignment that you have. And so we've asked that the House of Representatives considers dual citizenship because of the children that were born as a result of the war in many places across our world, who want to come home and contribute. And if you come home with a U.S. passport, you are a U.S. citizen. We want to encourage our citizens across the diaspora to come, get involved in certain activities. But because you have U.S. citizenship, and some people voluntarily gave up their Liberian citizenship to become U.S. citizens because of the crisis. Those people, we are saying, those who have Liberian citizenship before, you don't lose it. Liberian, once a Liberian, always a Liberian. Your children, however, must now decide, what they want to do. By the time you're 18, you can decide to either keep the U.S. citizenship or, come and stay as a Liberian. But we're saying, okay, because of the particular circumstances that we have, everybody who come, you won't be Liberian, you're Liberian. But there will be certain positions that you cannot hold. If you're a Minister of Defense for your country, and crisis come up, what will you do? So all these security implications is why we said dual citizenship will now be allowed if the House of Representatives agrees and is taken to referendum and the people agree to it, then that will be it. But there will be certain positions that you will not be able to hold because of all of the security implications involved.
Okay.
The Bible tells me, and I believe it, that he took it from Adam's ribs so that together they could work and bring the best that the family can have on the table. I don't believe there's anything to fear. If you take out 15 out of 45, I think that only 13%. So even with the 15 seats that we're talking about, it doesn't even give us the 30% we're talking about. So in terms of voting, if we end up with 30 men and 15 women, we still not going anywhere. But the fact is that there will be a core of women representing each of the counties that can bring the women's issues to the national debate, and we can talk about it. I don't think any male has anything to fear. The women are just clamoring for space because there are some issues that we really want resolved. We want put on the national agenda that doesn't get here. And then you know what happens to us? If you go and speak to Senator Yomli Kanga Lawrence, for example, I believe she will tell you the same thing, that she's overwhelmed as the only female representative in Grand Bassa, that every issue concerning the women, they come to her. One person, Ewa. So we get overwhelmed, those of us who manage to make it here. In the end, you get so much or so many issues that you can't even handle it. So all the women that are not even working. But that's just one person. Whereas if you have several women, together we'll come with our collective will and we can work. So if the men in the Senate decided that they don't want to wear black coat suits, and the women said that black coat suits who will win? They will still win. But it's not about overtaking them. It's not about taking over. It's not about sidelining them or marginalizing them. It's not about it at all. It's really just about allowing women a space to have their issues raised, to work in ways that bring growth and development to our country. I wasn't here during the crisis. I left here in 1984. So at the beginning, when all of the people were killed in 1980, 84, 85, I had already gone away to school. So during all of the war years, I wasn't here. I saw pictures. I heard stories because my parents and some of my siblings were here. I heard about what happened. I came once or twice during the war. And I saw the devastation of this beautiful country that all of us call home. I pray to God every day that in the decisions we take, whether you are a civil servant, or whether you are a church leader, whether you are a woman in the market, whether you are a farmer, that all of us will work on an environment of peace and security to continue to grow our country, because we've wasted what? 30 years. The young children who were born during the war years, most of them are in their early 30s. They have children now. They are dealing with issues concerning children. We must always do our best. And, sometimes the talking, there's a lot of talk on the radio, right? People are raising issues, bringing all kinds of things to the table. I think the discussion is healthy because people are not going and buying arms, so I hope, because you never tell what people are capable of doing. But I think the debate is healthy. I told someone in Bond County that when I ran in 2014, the opposition provided me with a roadmap. They didn't know. I asked somebody, sit down on the radio station, anything the opposition say, write it down for me. When I come on Friday, you tell me. So somebody will get on the radio and say, oh, last Sunday she been here 9 years. She ain't even been to Yanvola. Next weekend to Yanvola. Whatever they said that I was able to remedy, I went and remedied it. If I was not able to remedy it, I went there still. Amen. Yeah, I said I was going to build a school, but I haven't got the money in the budget, so I got to build it by myself. Finishing the school in Sana year, when I finish, I will come. So I kept in conversation with my people. So the opposition brought a lot of ideas that helped me to remember, because some places, Bond County is a big place, Bond County borders more than 6 counties. And even today, there's some places I haven't been. There's some villages on the Guinea border that I've never been there before. So it will not be possible that any one generation will do everything. We all must continue to strive to make Liberia better for everybody. I don't have any citizenship except Liberian. I'm a Liberian 100%. None of my children have dual citizenships. They are all Liberians. Because this is what we have. I want to live here. I want my children to live here. I want my grandchildren to live here. Because everybody else got their own country. When you go to Ghana, the Ghanaians taking control of their country. When you go to Guinea, the Guineans. So we must make Liberia where all of us can live. All I can say to those who are planning whatever protest they are planning, and there are rumors, the vice president supporting people are struggling with school fees for children. I got more than 2,000 little girls across Liberia, and I've gotten more than 5,000 requests. There's no way I can pay for 5,000 children. But there are girls, across the country that really need help. Those other girls will not go to school this year if someone doesn't say, let me help one person. So there are other issues that I'm involved with. I'm a development-oriented person for as long as I've been here. And, those of you who are in the press have seen me through, 15 years of my career. Even as an opposition person in the Madam Salif government, I was critical. But I was critical on issues, I don't care who doing what in your house or your business. Nobody come to my house and go to yours. But when I stood on the Senate floor, I was critical about issues that made Liberia better. I will never, not in the past, not in the present, or in the future. And I hope this will sink in the hearts of people. That I want a Liberia that I will be proud of, that I can invite my friends to come and visit. That we go visit our friends in their places. When some people carry to the village, you think that city, I'm carrying to my village. They're not village, but our cities, they both carry to, you get a USS shame. Then they say, what are you coming to visit? I say, I will come to you. But we got to all work together. And this cannot be the responsibility only of government. Government employees make up maybe 50,000 persons. And across all the sectors, we're talking about 4.5 million people. All of us have a responsibility to work for the peace and security of our country. And so I'm not involved in any kind of planning like that, my dear. As a member of this government, I believe all of us must work with civil society, work with the young people, work with the women to continue to make things better. And I think that's my mandate that I will continue to carry. Like I said, I'm not involved in it today. I will not be involved in it tomorrow. What their needs were, they complained about lack of proper information on the harmonization, that they weren't sure what the whole process was. And I think the Ministry of Finance has ensured that some of the discrepancies have been settled. They had to sit with the Ministry of Health for a few days so that everybody's salary and everything was done properly. There are some people who are moved maybe from a healthcare professional to a doctor. You go to school now, you got a certificate, you're a doctor, so they move you up. But you're probably still getting paid as a healthcare worker and not as a doctor. There were some cases like that. So I think those things have been resolved. The Ministry of Health finalized it and they sent the payroll to the Ministry of Finance that they're paying salaries for August, and those people who are caught up in that bracket have now they're paying the differences in their salaries because Ministry of Finance paid on the old thing. So if I was making $5 as a doctor, I'm supposed to make $6 and I got $5. Those are some of the things. But I believe this is still our country. We should be reasonable enough to know that government is doing its best. However, and I said to them when I met them 2 or 3 nights ago, that nurses and people in the healthcare sector have a special oath that they take, to protect lives. If government had not engaged them to begin these discussions, then maybe you could say, they don't care. But the fact is that we've been engaging them, over a 3-day period. We have meetings with different sectors, in a healthcare place. We talk to everybody. And I think they know we're trying our best. They should be a little bit patient. When you stay away from the hospitals, people die. So who's going to be responsible for, God forbid, those who will go to the hospital over the last 3 days and there's no nurse there? You got somebody who's not a nurse and they try to deliver a baby, the baby and the man die. Who's going to be responsible? I want to plead with them, as I did in the meetings at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in the CCSR Dennis Hall, that they should please consider going back to work. That whatever the issues are, that government is seriously looking into it. Even though we talked about a process of harmonization of salaries, because some people there are certain groups were at the same level, some people making much higher, then those at that level, we have to bring those people down. Because if you have the same experience, you have the same qualification, your salary should be the same. So that nurses are not making, okay, you had 2-hour tailor clinic, and I don't have one, so I will use that. You had 2-hour tailor clinic, you're making $5. Somebody at Mary Brown Clinic, they're making $10 because, they're friend of somebody who's a friend of somebody else, which is the way it was when we met it. So we set out to make sure that people at the same categories, same education level are paid at the same salaries. That's what we did. Those who were at the very low level, government actually brought them up. There was a privilege given to the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Health, and security personnel. So all of the up and down they were doing, they were giving extra privileges. I just want to use this occasion to plead with the nurses and the doctors across our country that we are working on all of the issues they have raised, and we're asking them to please go back to work. Because as we are working on it, if you're not in the hospitals, like GFK this morning, the place was barricaded. People who wanted to go to work, were barred from going to work. And I think a lot of things go in there to see what can happen. But I think they should please go back to work. We are doing our very best to ensure that these issues are resolved.
Thank you so much.
This gentleman, they didn't have a chance. Please let him ask this question.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. My name is George Sharp, and I work for ECOWAS Radio. I want to bring you back to the affirmative action bill. I want to know how you've been working with political parties that have their lawmakers in both houses to see how they can support this action. And then the second concern is there is concern about civil servant salary being paid in 2 installments, USD and LDA. Some of them have been complaining that 60% of their money that have been withheld, that they will be paid in USD, haven't been paid yet. Can you also address this?
Let me talk about that first. As we look at the new budget, what has happened is that salaries have been collapsed. There were some agencies that got scratch card, for example, extra money for scratch card, extra money for this, extra money for that. Salaries were cut into bits and pieces. Some of those bits and pieces were not taxed. And so we said that let everybody just get one salary. So whatever those benefits were, they were put into one lump sum. And that lump sum was divided 65% in US dollars, 35% in Liberian dollars. The process is incentives. Before this harmonization, people were making incentives in US dollars, but not getting the Liberian dollars. And during Madam Salif time, some of you are the old journalists, you remember there was a confusion. Even though we're getting incentive, one beyond the government salary. This government has employed more than 4,000 additional health workers and brought them on board. Nobody talking about so many good things. Everything is not bad. These people were working with international NGOs that were taking care of some of the hospitals. And when they closed down, because you now have a stable system, the government should take responsibility. We brought on board all of these new people. Those are the things where the salary thing has gone up a little bit, because we brought them on board, paying them what their peers are making. More than 4,000 health workers. In the educational sector, volunteer teachers are also, being assimilated. Because we could say, well, you volunteer teacher, you're not in a government period, you're not entitled, but we need teachers. We need nurses. We need doctors. Doctors go to the A.M. Dogliotti College for free, you know that? They don't pay 1 cent. Because we needed doctors. When Madam Salif took over, I don't think we have 5 doctors in the country. So the intent was let people who want to be doctor go for free. When you finish, you come and work for the healthcare system, for a few years before you can go on your own. So those people who are outside of the system, getting US dollar payments and not getting Liberian dollars, we say, okay, let everybody come on board, let's straighten it. So we're trying to straighten it. The fact is that everybody will get one pay. You get 65% in US dollars, 35% in Liberian dollars. With the few problems of some people, off target or being paid too high or something, or those at a lower level, we are now able to put everybody together and have these payments paid. In fact, those 3 groups are called, according to the Ministry of Finance, their August pay is also being done. I believe that this should be across all sectors. There's some sectors that still not paying income tax, they're not paying any kind of tax. Everybody got to come on board, though, because this is a national initiative of harmonizing the payroll and ensuring that people have grades. Then it's easier at the end of 1 year now. If everybody at level 1, those who do well, do your test, they got your receipts from all of your assessments during the year. If they say they gave you 5% increment, everybody growing together. You now have one person way to 2,000 and one secretary somewhere making 300. Not fair. So this is what we are harmonizing. I think hopefully by the end of we're in September. By the end of September, with all of those things being done, the legislature itself has now gotten involved in the process. So the budget has not passed. We are hoping that between today and tomorrow it will be done so the Senate can look at it. But they're ensuring that all of these things are being done in a way where people will be okay. Will everybody be happy? No. If you were a secretary and you were favored, maybe you were in a ministry that the person was, and you had some favor, and they gave you 2,000, and all the other secretaries across the government for that same position making $400. The other people making $400, not happy that you're making $2,000. So they say, well, come down small. And they didn't move them from 2,000 and bring them to 400 because whatever the situation, if you bring the person down a little bit, they will not be 2,000, but they will not be to 400. So those people will not be happy. But I think if they look at the national need for us to save a little bit more and begin to put money into programs and areas that is needed, I think it will be a good thing. The second question about the affirmative action. And when we started this process more than 6 or 7 years ago, that's how we started. We wanted a statute to deal with the inequity in the legislature. And so that statute was called the Affirmative Action Statute. We drew our rationale from what happened in Rwanda, that the president of Rwanda, seeing the fact that women bring much to the table, did not want 50% of his population sitting idle. So you see, across government, executive, judiciary, legislature, we're bringing women on board. See how fast Rwanda has grown in a short time? Because everybody bringing their best to the table. So the affirmative action was that tool, because we were not looking at any constitutional reform. However, as we grew and we developed, the issue was, we need to look at our constitution again. There's some things we need to change. The men again decided that the women, when we're doing the constitution, they're not trying to push out to the side, because I think that's what it was. That women they think what we're doing, we deal with it when we go to the constitutional reform, because really the constitution got to deal with it, and that means it will not be arbitrary, because you can do a statute and the president can come on the stage and say, yeah, we want women, but I can't find the women. But call out for women. I'm looking for women who got masters in engineering. You will find some people will come. But by the time you say you got one job for one engineer, by the time the men in the office here, they will go call their friend, and we do all the men will apply. Before the women found out, they finish appointing one man. So Kigami said, no, what I want is that all of my citizens are brought on board to work. So let's bring the women on board. That 50% of the talent, the energy, the innovation of people across government that you say, let them come help you, that's why we run out of that. So the affirmative action kind of died a natural death, because the men said, let them women, we'll do it when we're doing a referendum. Here we are now. The referendum is here. There was a team sent across the whole country. All the women said, yeah, we agree. You all put the words together and decide how we get it done. Again, because we got women here, the men say, okay, we're thinking about it, and it's shifting for real. Like somebody said, the debate is shifting. We don't know how it's going to turn out. And that was the reason why I thought I should just add my voice to the debate, because I'm hoping we'll get someone on the radio station to play the entire conversation, so that we can, call on our male counterparts that, some chance should be given to us as women to take part in the national debate, to have our voices heard, and to work and bring the energy that we have to help make Liberia a better place.
Thank you, Madam Vice.
And if you learn those rules as you are going up, you carry it into your professional life. Because I don't care where you go, even if it is your own company that you're running, you want people there who will follow the rule of law. Because somebody will say, if you have a story that you want to put in the newspaper, don't bring it 10 minutes before we finish printing. And you say, oh, you got to go inside. You are late. They say, bring it 5 hours before we do the final printing because somebody got to read it, make sure it's in proper context, and make sure it's the truth. Because when the newspaper put out a newspaper or the radio station put up something, and somebody can say, but I don't know what I said. You should have a proof. Your proof now is a recording that you're doing. But yeah, that's what the woman said. You check it here. She said it right here. I was right there when she said it. So the people need to check it and make sure. So there are rules all across our country. And sometimes things get off the table because people are angry. People have their own disappointments here and there. For whatever reasons that they have those disappointments. Sometimes when something happens, people take the law into their own hands. And we have international companies that are working in different parts of our country. They expect people to follow the rule of law there too. Well, like I said, the further away you get from Monrovia, the worse it becomes. People are still doing sassewood, something that has been banned in our country for many years. All the people that are witches, I don't know how you determine someone's a witch. Me, I'm a Christian. I know Holy Ghost fire can deal with all the issues, and so that Holy Ghost fire I can use. And I see it working in my life. But you can't tell me I'm going to go find out who's a witch. I don't know who a witch is. So we say sassewood because there's no scientific evidence. Except you see one woman eating somebody's baby, kolo. Then you can't say that she wish. Yeah, nah. I mean, you got to have serious proof of it. It can be, they both say, somebody say. Then you say, and I say. So the rule of law is important for governance. It's important to keep the peace. Because where your rights end, that where man begin. If we stand side by side, your own where end, that where my own beginning. Your decision cannot be something that affect me, especially if I don't agree with it. So that's what the rule of law does. It provides a even playing field. And the rule of law issue goes from the magisterial, from in your home first to the magisterial court, all the way to the Supreme Court. Because sometimes people feel aggrieved. There are places where you can take it. If you are a private worker, like for example in Club Brewery or Mita Steel, and the union they got problems, they have to go to labor. So the people will carry the issue to the labor ministry, and there's a process that the labor ministry will engage. If you are a civil servant and you got an issue, where do you go? Civil service. So if you got an issue, go to civil service first. But if you just lead the whole thing, you say, okay, we're not doing it this way, then there's crisis. And I think all of us, and the media also has some problems. There are some people in the media that think they can just write anything. And I think it's sad. We got issues here. There are real issues in our country. If you have a story about the vice president, and you have somebody come and say, okay, I have an interview here, this is what the vice president did. And you who are reporting that story, I think just your code of conduct amongst the media, people say you should do, I reach out. So you should send me one test. Send Solomon. Thank God the people in my office, people know that. I didn't go high people that nobody knows. My office open, you call Solomon. Oh, they say the vice president did so and so thing. What really happened there? And if Solomon say, well, I'll call you back. He doesn't call you back. You call him again. If he still doesn't answer you and you're writing the story, you can say, well, this is a story that I heard. I reached out to the office of the vice president. And I want to talk about it because it's important. Because sometimes some people, I've tried, I'm not a saint. I'm not. I got my own issues, because I'm a human being. The Bible says there is nobody perfect, not one except Jesus Christ. Some people will not steal government money, but they will be doing something in the corner that might not be correct. All kind of issues. But I think if we're trying to build a better democracy and these issues come up, the least you can do is to call Solomon. All of y'all got my number hasn't changed. I didn't change my number. Send me one text, man. Vice President, we hear they say you joining COP. Don't do what? Don't do what? The young people who are in COP, they're doing their own thing for whatever reasons. I think we should engage them and find out what the issues are and see if we can resolve it, because we cannot afford to go back to crisis. But if you just to sell newspaper, Stuart Taylor supporting COP, you publish our newspaper, it goes out. I have friends around the world. Every day I'm calling and saying, oh, we need schools, we need more girls, we need more this, we need more that. When that newspaper goes out, first thing will happen, they will call me. Oh, but I thought you were asking for anything. What's going on? How can you be a sitting vice president and undermine yourself? So people ask me. And the thing about the West is that what the people print is the truth. Because your newspaper man will tell you, this story you printing about the vice president, are you sure that it is the truth? They think you coming to on the radio, you sure? And if you're not sure, then you better go find out the real story first, because newspapers can be shut down. People can be taken to court because the president George Weah has removed all of the libel things that governments could use to harass the press. He said, well, we all live in one environment. Let's all keep talking. Because he removed that law. What I mean now? That the tyranny of the majority will go into, just like he said, let's talk about the rule of law. So some people, the fourth estate, can think that they can harass people. A lot of times they just say things that people don't even, there's no truth to it. By the time I come out to explain that it's not a truth now, my name going all over the world. That the same thing we said, she was going to come to undermine the president. I didn't have to be vice president. I didn't ask for the job. I was asked. I didn't go lobby for it. I never went anywhere to say, oh, maybe vice president. I didn't. People saw the value that I bring to the table and said, well, let's bring her on board. Let's bring her party on board. So then I would say the unravel something that I brought to birth. Who does that now? Who does that? The young people in Liberia have their own minds. They have their own destinies. When somebody reach your age, my son Charles Philip Taylor, that 10, 37, 36-year-old the other day. You think I can force him to do something now? My own child was born from my stomach. When I want to him, I got to negotiate. Oh, I think like that. Let's do it so. No, mommy, I think that the right thing. We'll be arguing about it until when I get to the point where I know he's strong about what he believes. I tell him. Because mothers will always try to, God, what you can be 100-year-old, say you're still mama, baby. That thing you're doing that alright, man. You think you're correct? They will be holy and poly. So even if they're your children that you born, you can't force them when you get to a certain age and you're adults. You guys take the decisions that you have to take. If something go wrong, you say, well, I told that decision myself, My mom said it, man, but anyway, after all, I'm a man. So how can you hold somebody responsible for the actions of others? I suffered in a convention in 2006 for child seller business. For things I don't even understand. I will not yet doing a war. I'm still held responsible. Oh, our child seller wife. You think anybody at me? Nobody at me. So I think as we engage the press, as we talk about the things that are important, let all our just try. How long it would take, for somebody that they bought, that got access to me and plenty people around me, for example. Madam Vice President, I heard so story. What is your side of the story? We had problems here, so now I will call Solomon and say, oh, but you saw what the people wrote? He said, but oh man, nobody called me to ask me. And it makes some people afraid of the press. Because just how you as a journalist have a career, you have you're working in your career, in your sector too, you want to grow, you want to develop, Nobody will just come play with your character and you'll be happy. You'll not be happy if they do it. But, it's become the way of the press. And so now when they tell me, oh, we need to have regular tete-a-tete, I said, no, I ain't want to do regular tete-a-tete. I'm just the vice president. I'm a supporting arm to the office of the presidency. There'll be something I want to even talk, something I know, whatever it is. But I'm not the final decision maker. I will have my voice.